Welcome back here to Morning Live. The Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane yesterday released 7 reports investigated and finalised by her office. Now, one of the reports includes the investigation into a pro-colonialism tweets by Western Cape Premier Helen Zille last year, where she praised colonialism and then later apologised. Now, Helen Zille was found to have violated the principles of the Constitution and dividing society on racial grounds. Mkhwebane also revealed that in the year 2016-2017 and 2017-2018, her office had a total workload of 25,288 complaints, and out of these, 21,176 have been finalised. So to talk to us more about the reports that were released and her office's vision 2023, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane joins us now from our Pretoria studio. Good morning, Advocate Mkhwebane, and thanks so much for speaking to us here on Morning Live.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners.
Advocate Mkhwebane, you became South Africa's Public Protector in October of 2016, and it's been a bumpy ride, to say the least. There's been a lot of scrutiny and a lot said about not only your ability to do this job within the prescripts of the Constitution and the Act that establishes your office, but some have simply said that you are totally incompetent in this regard. What's your response to that?
Sakina, I will just say to the South Africans or whoever is criticizing that I know my responsibilities as the Public Protector, and I'm applying the Constitution and the relevant prescripts accordingly. And unfortunately, it's only the 2 reports which I've been criticized on. And again, it's relating to a state organ, like being the Reserve Bank. And unfortunately, it also had an impact on private sector, especially the bank ABSA. So that's why that critical and very, in fact, scrutiny.
So what are you suggesting, Advocate Mkhwebane? Are you saying that this has nothing to do with your job per se, with the recommendations that your office have come up with, but rather about the entities involved in these investigations? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that the scrutiny is as a result of those entities. Not necessarily that I'm blaming any person. I'm just saying that possibly it had so much publicity because of the institutions involved. And I'm doing my work accordingly. The office is very productive, and we are able to protect the rights of South Africans, especially dealing with issues of maladministration.
Advocate Mkhwebane, you also complained about interference in doing your work and a lack of support. So talk to us. Who is not supporting you and who's interfering with your work?
I didn't say interfering per se. I said the behavior or the way I'm engaging, or we are engaging with the Portfolio Committee, which is a structure I must say I respect, because in terms of the Constitution, I am expected to report to the National Assembly. Therefore, I report through the Portfolio Committee, and I'm expected to report on my activities to the Portfolio Committee. And I'm saying I would expect the Portfolio Committee to be supportive to the institution or this constitutional body in the performance of my duties. It shouldn't be a situation where I am in the media or we are not in tandem with each other as far as the performance of my responsibilities as a constitutional body. Therefore, I'm trying by all means that we need to resolve this and we work together in the protection of South Africans.
Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of time to further get into that particular discussion. But just coming to some of the reports that you released yesterday and pertaining to the one that speaks to Western Cape Premier Helen Zille. Now, already there's been a barrage of critique and criticism again around that decision. And again, it is alleged that you've infringed on territory where perhaps your powers as public protector do not extend. What's your response to that?
It's so unfortunate that I've seen even professors in law commenting like that. The public protector has the sole mandate to enforce the Executive Members Ethics Act. And that is coming directly from Section 96 of the Constitution and Section 136(1) and 2(b) of the Constitution. And the complaint was lodged in terms of the Executive Members Ethics Act, which doesn't give me a discretion to reject that complaint. So I investigated that complaint in terms of the Executive Members Ethics Act.
So you would then know that some of the allegations that have been leveled against you in this regard is that you may have actually transgressed in terms of infringing on a territory that should have perhaps been investigated by the Human Rights Commission or another Chapter 9 institution.
Sakina, as I'm saying, I have the sole mandate in terms of the Executive Members Ethics Act. And if a complaint is lodged in terms of that legislation, I must investigate. And again, it doesn't give me a discretion. And you must take note further that here I was investigating the violation of the code, Executive Members Ethics Code. And it has nothing to do with violations of other human rights. But in our nature of work as the public protector or ombudsman, we do have the role to make sure that we strengthen constitutional democracy, which entail the issues of rights of every South African.
So how do you square that then with the scope to deal with human rights infringements? As the public protector, is that something that you would ordinarily deal with as per the Public Protectors Act?
You must know that in terms of the Constitution and the Public Protector Act, all Chapter 9 institutions are there to strengthen constitutional democracy. And in our work, when we investigate maladministration, abuse of power, abuse of state resources, all those impact on the rights of the people who are being impacted. Therefore, my mandate is purely maladministration. It's purely Executive Members Ethics Act. But then you will find that there would be rights which are violated in the process.
And just with regard to that, in terms of separation of powers doctrine, do you believe that you acted accordingly here and you would not be in a position where you have to apologize once again for making an erroneous, coming to an erroneous conclusion in this regard?
There's no issues relating to the violation or encroaching into another arm of state. That falls within my mandate. I've investigated a lot of other matters relating to the Executive Members Ethics Act. You know the issue of the former Minister Brown, former Minister Van Rooyen. Those issues falls within my mandate. Therefore, there would be anything like that.
And just a final one on that, and whether it's linguistics or an interpretation here, with regard to the matter, again, regarding Helen Zille of what the Constitution in the Bill of Rights prohibits as far as expression, freedom of expression is concerned. Is that a matter of interpretation? Is it a matter of linguistics? Because as far as I understand, the Constitution protects one's right to freedom of expression. So So when you use the word prohibit in this regard, you know, is that correct?
You know, the Premier has violated the Executive Members' Ethics Code. And the Premier's argument is that she has a right in terms of Section 16 of the Constitution to freedom of expression. Freedom of expression has some limitations to that right. You cannot, holding that office and express yourself in that, because in that office you should be acting consistent with the integrity of your office. Therefore, she violated the provisions of the very same Section 16 relating to freedom of expression, because that has an element of incitement.
But with regard to, you know, just placing that in its proper constitutional context, there is a legal precedent in this instance where it was found that when you speak about that definition, it is definitional and does not prohibit any form of expression. So when you say that something is prohibited, the same constitution cannot protect and prohibit the same expression.
Sakina, I think on that particular issue, the mentioning of the prohibition, possibly if I had the report in front of me, so that I can mention in what context was that the issue of prohibition was mentioned. But then, as I'm saying, that she violated the very same provision in the Constitution to freedom of expression, because she shouldn't have pronounced, or she shouldn't have indicated that she has a freedom to express herself in that particular manner, whereas she is violating the rights of other South Africans, especially their rights to dignity, and as well her expression will have an impact on the rights of South Africans.
Well, thank you so much, Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Now, yesterday she released 7 reports investigated and finalized by her office, including that of controversial colonialism tweet by Western Cape Premier Helen Zille.